So, welcome to Ask TLC Living a Balanced Life. Lou Karatzas and I, Bonnie Hovel, we're both licensed clinical social workers, and we're the presenters for today's presentation. So, Lou?
Okay, so to begin, I would like to remind people that we all are works in progress. We all want to be the best we can be. Sometimes we don't know how to move ourselves along a little bit better in the life that we're living. So these educational presentations are intended to give you information that will help you become as full a human being as you can be. We go to the doctors regularly. We evaluate how our physical health is doing, but there's more to us than our physical health. And so today we're going to be talking about a whole range of aspects of our lives that we want to have in balance. We talk about our mind and body. And so today we're going to start with the whole picture.
Oh, we have choices. We often hear and we often say we want to be more in balance, and we hear people say that. But I like these visuals because do we want to be a tightrope walker? If we have to be in the kind of balance where we're just on a precarious wire and we can barely do something without upsetting the balance, then that makes it harder, not easier. If we can think of ourselves more as a juggler, then that's a little more livable. We can accept that some things will always be up in the air. And the trick is to keep our eye on the balls and manage them with grace and inner balance. So juggling really requires maintaining your center. And when we have inner balance, then the things on our to-do list are accomplished more effectively because we're balanced. So if we honor our priorities at every stage of our lives and take time to enjoy our lives, that's one of the most important secrets of busy people that have managed to have inner peace while they're doing all the things that they want to accomplish. Joy and contentment are positive energy. And you don't have to think of joy as joy with a capital J. You can snack on joy and think of it as a little j. There are many things that are smaller that still bring us joy, like laughing with a friend. To me, that's an example of something that brings me joy. So take the time to evaluate. Are you taking the time to enjoy your activities? So Lou, balance is the key.
As you look at this wheel, I want to give you a moment to absorb it. We've itemized 6 particular areas that help us live a balanced life. And if you start at 1 o'clock, you'll see the mind. The mind is your thoughts. It's how you process information. Remember that what our mind tells us, our body believes. So being in your best mind is really important. It's the ability to calm yourself when you're feeling stressed. It's the ability to be in the present moment. The next area is health. And health is not defined by disease only. You can have MS, you can have heart condition and still live a healthy life within the parameters of what your disease or illnesses permit. So paying attention to what parts of our health we have control over is part of this dimension, your health. How well are you following medical advice? We go to the doctors and we want them to tell us what we need to do to be healthy. But do we really listen? We're not perfect. We don't expect perfection. But as you are working with your healthcare providers, you're a team. You're an important part of that. They can give you information. It's up to you to put it into practice. The next category is exercise. And exercise based on your ability. Again, everything is personal based on your ability. If you have a knee problem or just had surgery, you may not be able to play tennis or pickleball or do some of the other things that you would normally do in the exercise realm, but there might be things that you can still do. So as you evaluate yourself in these categories, think about what is possible and what you're doing within that possibility. The next area is social engagement, based on your level of whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. We don't expect introverts to be as socially engaged as extroverts. But even introverts have a sweet spot where they can be communicating and social. Maybe it might be only with one or two people at a time. They may have to leave an event sooner because they get more exhausted. But being socially engaged is something on a continuum that we need to evaluate for ourselves. Are we as engaged as we want to be and can be? The next category is diet. And when we talk about diet, we also include anything that we put into our body, including substances like alcohol, over-the-counter meds. So how are you doing with your diet? I don't mean dieting to lose weight. I mean dieting as a means of eating healthy so that our bodies can do the best they can for us. And then the last category on this slide is sleep. Are we getting enough sleep? We are supposed to get somewhere between 7 and 8 hours of sleep. If you're always deficient on that, your body is going to have a reaction to it. So paying attention to what gets in the way of sleep. How are you doing with sleep? Oh,
I just want to mention that there are a few more categories that you could use. You wouldn't have to stick with our categories when you look at your whole life wheel balance. And some of those are, they could be family and friends, because as we all know, that those people we're close to are so important in our lives, and they can help us in many of the other areas, and we might do things with them that help with that. There might be a financial category. If you have stress in that area, that could set you off balance too. And then there's spiritual and religious. Some people are very involved religiously, and others have spiritual importance in their lives in spirituality. And these are all things that really affect us. And then hobbies and recreation. So those are all categories you could add and look at and just see, are you out of balance in one of those areas that's important to you?
And this is just an example of a client that I had that we use the Balanced Life Wheel with. So we use the original 6 categories that I discussed earlier, and we evaluated where he was along that spectrum. And as you can see, he was doing pretty well in the sleep and the diet area, as well as health. Where he was a little bit weak was in the mind area. He had racing thoughts. He had fear of the future. What ifs were constantly in the front of his mind, crowding out the what can I do? So mind was an area that we wanted to explore. Exercise was another area that he said he lacked in. And why he chose that area was because he had a bad back. And so in the course of the work that we did together, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I want to share that, is he thought because he couldn't play golf because of his back, he couldn't get any exercise, but he could walk. He could combine walking with being with another person to get some social engagement. And you'll notice that social engagement was another area that he marked himself low in. And so he basically didn't feel like he had any friends. As a matter of fact, he initially said he didn't have any friends. And as we worked together, he realized that maybe his definition of friends was maybe a little too narrow. He had acquaintances that he could do things with, that he shared interests. So that would be what an evaluation of a wheel would look like for one person. Now you can imagine if this wheel were rolling down the street, it would be kind of awkward, wouldn't it? It'd be going thump, 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 just like a bad tire. And so what we want to do for ourselves is to look at what areas of weakness, of areas that we define as weaknesses, can we strengthen? And that's the whole purpose of looking at a balanced life wheel. And we hope that that makes sense to you.
Yes, and I love that description too, because you can use your strengths. If you're someone who does have the social engagements, but maybe not enough exercise, you can leverage that to do something with someone you care about, and that can help you in the area where you're weaker.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
now, go ahead.
taking stock of where we are today, that's the starting point, okay? But it's not static in time. I really caution people to not take this wheel to the literal point of view that you feel like if you said, gee, I'm kind of low on exercise, and I'll do a little bit, but it doesn't get me to the point where I would feel like it's more balanced. It's a start. It's the beginning. So we want to look at our balanced life as a continuum. Reevaluate periodically. I like having that chart out where, like on my refrigerator, and I'll often recommend to clients that they do that just to kind of remind yourself every once in a while, hey, I'm doing better in this area now. So, give yourself a pat on the back when you do something well.
And self-care ideas is the second bullet there. Start a self-care idea collection. Now, what I mean by that is you could just have a little journal, little notebook, and just start writing down some ideas of things that you enjoy doing. Like, they can be simple too. They could be taking a walk. And like Lou said, you don't need to have the whole thing accomplished all at once. You could do it small steps. Adjusting your breathing, doing some deep breathing at periodic times throughout the day. Finding a few things that help you have fun, even talking to a friend sometimes and making sure that happens every so often if it's someone you can laugh with or someone who just helps relieve the burdens that you have because they're so easy to talk to. Those are self-care ideas for you, and they're important enough to write down. And sometimes when you're wondering, well, what can I do for myself? You can look in that little list that you've made, and it might be a good reminder.
The next thing we want to talk about is making sure that we find time for ourselves. Many of us are busier than we thought we would be in retirement. I know that's a fact for me. So every once in a while, we have to step back a little bit and say, am I doing the things that are important to me? Have I let go of too many things that bring joy and contentment in my life? Finding time for yourself is critically important, especially if you tend to be givers. Those of us who are givers can deplete ourselves if we give more than we replenish. So, if you've seen some of my any presentations, you've seen me talk about a pitcher of energy, and that as the day goes on and as you give to others, as you do things that are important, you're emptying that pitcher. if you don't replenish it, you're going to be dry by the end of the day, and then you're not good to yourself or anybody else. So taking care of yourself, replenishing that energy is critical to well-being.
Absolutely. And
It's particularly difficult for caregivers. I have had caregivers who said to me, if one more person tells me to take time for myself, I'm going to drown them. And I understand that, we add pressure to them when they're already feeling full, but you can replenish a pitcher in little ways by, as Bonnie said, taking a deep breath, taking a moment to appreciate nature, watching, even if you're a caregiver, watching a sitcom, if that pleases you, with the person you're caring for. These are little things you can do to find time for yourself every day and rebalance that part of your wheel.
And that goes right into the next one. Learn to ask for help. Somehow that is a hard thing for many of us to do. And what I suggest is write down a few things, especially if you are a caregiver or in a situation where you don't really have much time to yourself. Write down a few things that the next time someone says, "What can I do?" you'll know what to say. Meet me for coffee. I had a neighbor who was in that situation. She was a caregiver, and I talked to her about this type of thing, and she came up with a few things. And one of them was just meet me for coffee. She had 3 or 4 really good friends, and she was never finding time for them. And so when they said, "What can I do?" she said that, and they made it happen. So sometimes just having that ready in your mind is important.
Learning to say no or yes more often is another self-care tip. Which is more challenging for you? For some of us, it's saying no. Being able to say, I'm sorry, I cannot take on this additional task without having to go into long explanations as to why you're saying no to this. When somebody asks you to do something, they are hoping to get a yes. But if you can't be that yes person, let them off the hook to get to the next person who could possibly say yes more quickly. So not having all these long explanations as to why I can't or decide not to do something frees the person who's got the request to move on to getting their yes answer from someone else. If it's hard for you to say yes, if your automatic is, no, I can't do anything more, or I can't do this, or, there's no way I can learn this, maybe stepping back a little bit and saying, wait a minute, maybe I could. Is this an automatic response, or should I think about this? So maybe I could say yes to something, and I might get some satisfaction out of doing that. Yeah.
So then the next one is say I choose rather than I should, ought, must, or can't. This is a way that you're framing it in your mind that helps you. And the reason is if you are always saying, oh, I need to do that, I must do that, or I can't do that, then it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas if you realize that everything you do is a choice and be more intentional about making those choices, then you're going to feel more in control of your life, yourself. You're going to feel more satisfied and probably more grateful about your life.
And part of choosing is telling your mind that you have a choice. So again, remember I said earlier, our body listens to what we tell it. So if you're always giving negatives, I can't, I won't, I can't do it, your body is taking that in and will put up roadblocks automatically. So if you say, I may not be able to do this perfectly, but I'm going to give it a try. I choose to give it a try. I choose to believe I can do this. It may take me longer than somebody else, but I choose to try. Your body is responding to that in a more positive way. So we really want to eliminate as much negative self-talk as possible so our body feels more positive. The next thing we want to talk about is the difference between venting and complaining. We all know how difficult it is when we're listening to somebody who complains all the time. We want to shut them down. We don't want to be that person that complains all the time, but sometimes we need to vent. Sometimes we need to be able to say to someone, I'm really not in a good place right now, and I can't take on more right now because I'm not feeling 100%, or I'm just not there. So that may be venting that then allows us to rethink, okay, maybe I need to rethink, by saying it out loud, I'm hearing what my barriers are. So venting is not a bad thing. Complaining can be more negative. So I think we need to pay attention to when are we venting and when are we complaining.
And then last but not least, take care of your body, mind, and spirit. And most of what we've been talking about today lends itself towards that idea. Exercise increases our brain uptake of good hormones. So if you choose activities that make you feel good, make you feel joyful, competent, start small. Use common sense. Your grandmother's advice, take a walk, hug somebody. Eat a good meal, talk to a friend, stop to smell the roses. All those things are good advice. Taking breaks really helps our creativity flourish and keeps us from just go all day long. Pay attention to your body, disconnect from some of the electronic devices. Schedule some time to relax, like read even for 30 minutes. Get organized, lean on your support system, and spend time with people and activities that are fun. So these are the things we recommend to take care of yourself, to have a more balanced life. And in a more balanced life, you will find more fulfillment and not think so much about what you might regret. In a long life, what might you regret? Well, maybe you can follow a direction in your life now, in the moment, where you're accomplishing more of these things that help you feel like you are who you want to be and you're fulfilling the best things you can for yourself, wherever that is that you are in your life.